Welcome to She Sells Radio. Welcome to day 40 of our Finish Strong challenge. If you are listening to this in real time, I hope you had the most beautiful Christmas holiday weekend. If you celebrate, I just realized my video is like wonky over on YouTube. So hopefully this is better. And you know what? I am coming to you today all about this message of gratitude, and I'm going to give you a specific challenge along with it today. And I got to be honest, I kind of had to coach myself through this one a little bit today. And so I am just committed more and more to saying the real of what's going on. Even when I'm not feeling the most high vibe or the most lit up. And today, I'm generally there. Today, I kind of wasn't there. I'll just be really real with you. And I was like, okay, I got a podcast to record about gratitude. And I didn't want to do it from a place that felt inauthentic. And trust, there are so many things I have in my life to be grateful for. And yet, do you ever just have a moment or a day where it's like you're in a bit of a funk, and that was my day for a decent amount of the day today. And it's funny because we actually I'll just share a little bit of personal, and then I promise I'll aim to give you some value for your life today. But we had an ultrasound appointment today for our second little guy, and that was so fun to see him up close. We got some really good, really, really good pictures. It's funny with those because sometimes you get an angle and it's like, oh my gosh, is this a human or an alien? And then other times you get an angle and you're like, oh, okay, he's an adorable little baby. So, that was so fun. But yeah, I don't know if it's just an energetic thing. I was coaching some of the women in my mastermind earlier today on this because a number of them were feeling it, I think, too. I think just energetically right now, at least as I'm recording this a couple days in advance. So as I record it, we're in a time of potentially a little bit lower energy and more releasing, being perhaps sensitive to things that no longer serve. So I think I've got some of that going on today too. And the women in my mastermind were feeling it too. And I think the more we can not make ourselves wrong for it, the faster we can move through it, but not so fast that we just bypass what's coming up in those times. Right. And so did some journaling this morning I was just noticing I was getting more agitated by certain things in particular relationships, or some old patterns were popping up thought-wise. And I was like, wow, sometimes you think you're done with stuff and then it still comes back, right? Just in a different way. And so I was like, okay, I get to work on releasing this some more. So did that, and still just, when you're used to feeling pretty darn good most of the time, and if you don't, it can feel even harder. Right. And I noticed how my brain was trying to tell me oh, you should be doing this. You should, number one, you shouldn't feel this way. Number two, you should be pushing through, you've got an event to fill. You've got, X number of days left until the end of the year to get stuff done, and still got Christmas shopping to do. Yes, I'm recording this a couple days before Christmas. I still have some Christmas shopping to do. As much as I like to be ahead of the game, that didn't happen completely this year for Christmas. And so there were a lot of there was a lot of the kind of the old story popping up of you should just push through it. Got a video to record for Salesforce for this, it's actually a cool report, the state of sales report they just put out. And that's part of my program agreement with them, is I'm going to record this video and share my reactions with it. And I want to do a good job of that. Right. And so there were a lot of should kind of popping up in my mind. And it was very tempting to feel like I needed to push through and to go into some old patterns of like, take the uninspired action just to get it done. And there were a few things that were time sensitive this morning that literally did have to get done. So I did some of that. But for the other stuff, it was like, you know what, it can wait a little bit. Like even recording this podcast again, there was the energy of you should get it done to stay on track and stay on schedule. But I knew it was going to be uninspired. And I just don't want to do that anymore in my life. And so pretty much all day today, I've been consciously working on mindset and consciously working on shifting out of some lower, we'll just call them lower vibe feelings and old patterns, and looking for all along, like, what's the gift? What's the gift? What's the gift? Because I know in everything that doesn't feel good or that's a challenge, there's like something for me in it. There's something for you in it. There's something for all of us in it, whether it's a lesson learned or something we get to release or something we get to drop or shift. And, you know, I don't know yet if I'm fully clear on what the gift is in kind of this emotional state I have right now. But what I am clear and what I would encourage you to, you know, hopefully at least one decent takeaway from this is there is always a gift. So when you can, if you find yourself in a place where you're not feeling super grateful for something, just asking that question, if there was a gift in this, what would it be for me? Does start to shift things. And as I did that this morning, I felt a little bit lift, like, okay, there are some places where I need to set better boundaries. There are some places where I get to speak up for myself more. There's some old thought patterns that apparently I still get to work through as well. And so, you know, the experience of that, the experience of this, like there are always gifts, even when you feel like you're not grateful. That's what I want to say first. But kind of the approach today and what I wanted to share, in terms of gratitude is, you know, as I was out today, I would notice when the shoulds would come up. And I want you to notice in your life when you're like, I should be feeling more grateful. I should be pushing through. I should be doing this. I promise you, there's no great action or result that's going to come from, you're not going to get an inspired result from uninspired action. Let's just call it that, right? That's not how it works. So when we notice that and we can stop and pause and not go back into the old program of work addiction, or let me just push through just to check a box and say I did this. And we can pause and say, what's actually coming up right now that needs to be processed or needs to be dealt with? What am I being invited to shift, to release? And then from that place, really just focusing on the feeling state, right? Continuing to focus on the feeling state. And that was pretty much my goal for today, was like, I want to just feel peaceful, grateful, calm, clear. And that doesn't come from just pushy action. You know, that comes from actually being willing to get the gift and the lesson of whatever the emotion is that's coming up for you. And then focus on like, what is good in this and how is this serving me? And sometimes it comes quickly, sometimes it doesn't. But so anyway, with all of that said, when we are consciously aware that the action that we're about to take is uninspired and we're pushing through because of a should, and instead we can kind of take a step back and say, okay, what's the real gift here in my mindset? What's the real gift here in what's coming up to be shifted? We can make faster progress. So that was pretty much my day today. And what I was focusing on throughout the day, and this is still the old conditioning comes up too, of like, I don't know about you, if you're an entrepreneur or if you're in sales and you're running your own schedule, but I notice like generally I love my schedule. It's very expansive. I'm working right now too on just incorporating bigger blocks of time all throughout the day with my son. And that's really, really fun. And in the mindset I was in today too, there was like, gosh, that voice, like, oh, you should be working more. You should be pushing through. It kept coming up. And I had to consciously stop it and say, no, like, I'm going to enjoy this time with my husband, going to our ultrasound, seeing our new little guy. And that was kind of the day. But what I noticed was, as I came back to being present and came back to appreciating what was, and gave myself a break, like anytime I would notice the shoulds popping up, I would just say change in my head. And it's kind of that cue. I mean, you can pick your own cue, but it was like a cue to change. And to release the should a little bit and to come back into the present moment. It was kind of like that weight lifted. And again, I say all this not at all in like a victim mode, not at all in a poor me. I've got an incredible life. That's not what I'm saying here at all. I'm just saying, if you're like me, you can maybe relate to this, where sometimes we just get in a funky state. It's like nothing can necessarily be wrong. You just get in a state and you get to work through it. And sometimes it's the body addicted to cortisol. It can be something that happens more when you're on the precipice of big change in your life too. So just be aware and know, like, when you're really going for the up level, there will usually be a pretty stark contrast to that comes right before it. Kind of a proving ground or a little challenge, like, hey, how much do you really want this? / the ego holding on to old patterns and backgrounds. So there can be all of that going on. But as I focused on just changing and coming back into the present moment and being like, what can I be grateful for right now? What am I grateful for right now in this moment? Even like sitting with Jason after the ultrasound at Whole Foods, having a cup of soup, like, it was pretty fun. And we laughed and we joked, and it was the middle of the day. And my ego was trying to say, oh, you should get back to work. You should get back to work. I was like, there's nothing productive that's going to come from me, like, going and sitting in the office and pushing and forcing through right now. So really paying attention to, am I acting out of inspired action, or am I acting out of a should? And the power of gratitude is that it will shift the energy in your life from any sort of shoulds into that true space where you're actually receiving inspired action and receiving inspired downloads. And the one thing that I felt like doing when we got home from the ultrasound was playing with my son. Like, I've been gone almost all day. Just these appointments take a while sometimes. I've been gone almost all day. I just wanted to play with him. I was like, you know what? I'm going to let myself play with him. And then from that place, I finally felt the inspiration to come record this podcast for you. And after this, I'm going to go record the state of sales report, reaction for Salesforce. And so it was like, you know what, being like focusing on the energy first. And this is probably not my most eloquent podcast ever. And I'm going to really honor the energetic space that I'm in and not try to make it the most eloquent ever. But my hope is that you'll receive the message from the heart of today's challenge is all about gratitude. And some days I know that's easier than others. And it's not something you have to push or force, but by hopefully using some of the tools I've shared today, you can shift more into that energy. And from that place, the next inspired action will come that will lead you in the direction of your goals and lead you in the direction of your vision. And so that is your challenge today for day 40 of the Finish Strong Challenge, is to really focus on gratitude, whether that feels very easy for you and you can go rattle off a list of 20 things that you're grateful for right now in your life. If so, do that. Or if you're like, you know what, if I'm being honest, I'm not feeling super grateful right now for whatever reason. And I'm not going to try to push it, but I'm going to use some of these tools and resources to get myself back into a more grateful state. Because again, we have to remember, at the end of the day, whatever the vision is, whatever the goal is that you've been going for with this challenge, if you've been following along, it's because of the feeling state you think you're going to get from it. And so it's not going to come, or it's not going to come the way we want it when we're not a match for it. And part of how we're a match for it is by our feeling state, right? That state is so, so, so important. We talked about that recently in the challenge as well. So you get to practice embodying the emotions that you think you're going to feel when your vision is accomplished. And you get to do that first before it happens. From that state, because we can't think greater than our feelings, from a state of an elevated emotion, you will have thoughts of things to do and actions to take that will carry you way farther and way faster along the path. And so I'll be honest, like I've got some big goals I want to accomplish before the end of the year. Actually, I don't even want to call them big because they're just goals, right? I've got some goals I want to accomplish before the end of the year. I haven't had a super inspired download today of like, you should go do this. And I'm letting that be okay. Like I'm letting that be okay. I'm letting focusing on gratitude be the number one thing right now, because I know from that place, everything else will move into form. And so again, this is your challenge for today. No matter what energetic state you're coming in from, I want to invite you to shift the energy to gratitude and reflect on at least 5 things that you're grateful for at this point in your life today, no matter how you woke up feeling, no matter what may be going on in your outer circumstances. And that's your challenge. So to be entered into our prize drawings and to win the challenge, to participate, go to elisearcher.com/challenge. And you will get a workbook every week that you can use to journal in and track your progress. And then you'll get a graphic image that you can share on social and check off that you participated for today. Tag me at Elise Archer, use the hashtag #SheSellsChallenge. And that's how you get entered to win. And it's also just fun and free and something I hope you're enjoying. So like I said, not my most eloquent podcast today. Thank you for bearing with me. I wanted to just be really real, but also share some in the moment things that I'm doing and that I do to work on shifting the energy when it doesn't feel as easy, because some days it's easier than others, right? It's like that for all of us. So I have so much love for you. Thank you for listening in. I will extend the invitation that if you want to come have a beautiful, transformational, they will be high vibe couple of days with me and an amazing group of women in Sedona, Arizona, coming up January 17th. You can go to elisearcher.com/Sedona, secure a spot for our beautiful retreat we have coming up. It's all about creating your quantum leap in 2023. And you know what? A quantum leap can come out of all different types of circumstances. And when you're in let's just say like a less positive energetic state, you are actually poised for a quantum leap. If you use that as the springboard to get really clear on what you want and really clear on what you're either available or no longer available for, it can be the springboard to take you to that next quantum leap. And so I'd love to help you create that in your business and your career and your life in this upcoming year. So again, elisearcher.com/Sedona. Thanks so much for being a member of the community, and I'll see you tomorrow for our next episode.